Suave afternoon, Suave afternoon, Suave afternoon. This is Brother Suave, your mind-blowing, thought-provoking, and eye-opening on-air personality, life coach, psychotherapist, author, and creator. Hope you guys having a suavelous day.
Yeah, and with that, let's commence the pay.
Okay, I'm so suavelous, you so suavelous.
Together we can fix the trauma that's befallen us.
Divine social interactions remains marvelous.
Mind-blowing, suavelicious talk, higher consciousness. But think, let not your hearts be troubled, Dr. Brother Suave.
Divine light give you double.
Greetings, this is Dr. Brother Suave, your mind-blowing, thought-provoking, and eye-opening on-air personality, life coach, psychotherapist, author, and creator, and the host of Social Therapy with Dr. Brother Suave. Man, listen, I'm so excited on this very beautiful Wednesday, November 15th, 2023. Listen, thank God for waking me up to see another day I never seen before, another day to get it right, another day to tell my friends and family I love them. I just thank God for the opportunity to be able to do part two of Successful Black Men, the ones you least expect. You know, last week, man, we had a wonderful time, man. I just really enjoyed it, and just appreciating the opportunity to have a dialogue with another brother who just can identify what it is in terms of coming out of him and myself coming out of the two worst cities in the state of Florida. Man, we just thank God for the opportunities and just to be able to dialogue. But just thank God this week, man, being able to always constantly trying to grow, being able to ignore the distractions, being able to move forward and ignore maladaptive behaviors from people who are just toxic in all kinds of ways, but also being able to take ownership of how I respond to things. And this is the thing about when it comes to always growing, and this is what I'm saying about becoming successful, is not always socioeconomically, but it's about your personal growth and development. And when you learn these things, you tend to do a lot better in terms of how you handle situations. And it's not always how you react, but how you respond to those things. And so today we're going to be continuing to do part two. So what I'm gonna do is I'm not going to introduce you, the gentleman like I did last week, because what I'm gonna do is have him to reintroduce himself and tell us a little bit about his background, and then we'll jump into the meat and potatoes of today's broadcast. So without further ado, let's welcome the wonderful and brilliant Dr. Jones. What's
Hey,
going
thank
on,
you,
Dr.
Paul.
Jones?
Not much, brother. How you doing today?
Man, I'm doing suave-tastic. A little tired, man, for some of the activities I've been doing today, grinding out. You know how I do. Try to have those multiple streams and just trying to survive in this world. You know, that's just how it is. You know,
Hey,
that's
that's
one thing
that's how.
about that's why we claim ourselves to be a man. It's not how much you make, but it's the whole picture of how you handle your family, how you handle life situations, and being able to distinguish the people who are not good for you, good, bad, or different. But it could be family, friends, or foe. And when you create those boundaries, because you know how it is these days, for accountability seems like a hate crime these days. But man, I'm sorry, but just go ahead and introduce yourself and tell them a little about yourself in the background.
Okay, I'm Clayton Jones, originally from Belle Glade, Florida, born and raised. Um, oh man, why I started at Bahamian descent. Mother from the Bahamas, dad from Sanford, Wildwood area. So you guys probably hear that country background a little bit in the background. Um, I'm a registered clinical social worker here in the state of Florida. I also have a BSW and MSW, DSW here from here at Florida Atlantic University. Um, Man, what else could I say about myself? But I always try to be humble about it. But I've been working here now in social work probably about 3.5, 4 years. I have a background in law enforcement where I did that for about 13 years, started out in corrections, worked in the jail for a little bit, went to law enforcement. So I am dual certified from the state of Florida. I worked a little bit in the state of Georgia, Rockdale County Sheriff's Office, and Georgia State Patrol.
Okay, man. Listen, I appreciate that, and let me tell you, man. You don't always have to be humble, bruh. Like they say, it ain't bragging when it's true. And that's
Yep,
one of the
yep.
things, man. They say that it's like sometimes I feel like we're in a catch 22, or you can't win for losing, because if you assert yourself and say certain things, it's perceived as bragging. But then also, uh, if you don't say anything, you don't really have you miss out on opportunities. So it's like,
That's
yo,
right.
and for me, I just don't tend to worry about what other people think, because you're only free when you stop worrying about what people think. And again, you can't win for losing these days, so you just because the opportunity may get there, because one, being able to be in your profession, you get a lot of opportunities, because the thing is, no matter what society says in terms of the gender wars in our community, the need is for black leadership coming from black men, because it's few and far between.
Absolutely. I agree with
So
that.
the fact, yeah, so
Yep.
the fact that you have those credentials, and coming out of the situations and navigating through these different professions, it will be considered an exception, not the norm. So sometimes you gotta
I
let them
agree.
people know, you know. But
You
anyway,
know,
man, let's go ahead.
no, I just want to piggyback off that. The funny thing, man, I heard what's his name? The guy that represent LeBron James.
Ah,
But
yes.
he made a comment, man. He said he was talking about being humble, and
Hmm.
just to just to confirm what you were saying. Sometimes you can't be too humble where you're forgotten in the ring, you know. And he said, I tend to be humble, but at the same time, and it's so funny he said that, because I can relate to that. I mean, I'm a beast, and behind closed doors, and when it matters most, and being able to articulate myself, with others, and people that matters, that people that can help me move, or climb that top line. So I get what you're saying, though. At sometimes, you have to, I ain't gonna say downplay it, but a little bit. I'm so appreciative, man, because I grew up, hard, man, with nothing. So, know, I can be relatable, but at the same time, I can articulate myself and make strategic moves, if I
Yeah.
need be. Yeah.
Well, the way I view things, and as we talk, I'm always finding some way to contradict status quo or everything. Is like, for example, marketing, or
Right.
a shut mouth don't get fed. So if you're not
Absolutely.
putting your credentials, or putting your skill set, or putting your ability to do something, you just, well, the quiet person don't get no opportunities. You know,
Correct.
because at the end of the
Correct.
day, if you don't market, that's why it's branding. Like you see in the back, it's branding. And if you don't know how to brand, and you know how to put your stuff out there, then you don't get opportunities. I mean, just a,
Correct.
a particular look or something can have people asking questions. And then it opens the door to a dialogue. So, for example, we all know, again, there's no secret in our business, um, because, again, as much as there are these things about the lack of fathers, the lack of our integrity, and all those things, at the end of the day, as soon as somebody going to get mental health treatment for themselves or their children, the first thing they do is ask for a black male therapist. They ask for a male therapist,
Correct.
because they
Yep.
may publicly say one thing, but in their heart, they want to connect to a man, the absence of a father, the daddy issues, and they want to be able to. They know that we are transparent. They know that we hold them accountable, but it's in private, so they know they don't have anything to worry about, and they know they're in good hands.
Correct.
I mean, come on, every child you get, they go say, "Hey, they're gonna ask, do they have a male therapist?" This is what they ask.
Yeah.
If people can try to disagree all they want, this is what they ask.
Yep.
They ask
That's
questions
true.
because they want one for their son. And taking into consideration, so many of our young brothers that have been incarcerated, so for whatever reason, they probably had time and family services, child services, and they trying to get treatment. And they always ask for a male therapist, because so many of them haven't had those father figures. So this is what they're trying to
Right.
get. So anyway, like I said, man, you're a brilliant dude, a great dude, a law enforcement background, teaching background, and and being able to navigate from what they say, getting from the mud and being
And
able
it's
to
on
be on a
the
platform, being on a platform to do something to change their lives. And I remember you said last
Mhm.
week, you about changing lives. So at the end of the day, when you was closing it out, you're like, man, they know Dr. Jones gonna do something. He's gonna
Correct.
change lives. So again, it ain't bragging when it's true, you know.
Yep. Yep.
So brother, I wanted to ask you a few questions. So this dealing, I always talk from a social, spiritual, and clinical perspective. So again, these are the topics that I wanted to discuss tonight, but I also wanted to ask you some questions on it. So do you think God made mistakes when he designated a man to be the head of the household? And how do you think that contradicts what society today? Because, we say one thing from a carnal minded or a social perspective, but then you think God made a mistake because, you know, how do you think this happened? Because people are like, oh, well, this and this and that. But me or you didn't make the decision.
Correct. Now, that's an interesting question, um, because how I'm going to answer that question from a revelation perspective. Okay, um, people that believe in God, I don't think that God made mistakes. He couldn't, right? So
Mm-hmm.
that not again, I'm coming from a revelation perspective, right?
Yes.
So when Eve did what she did, right? And I know this can be people perception on how they look at it, but he tried to invest or empower women, right, with leadership, but she failed. She failed and she dropped the ball. And how did she have that knowledge to know not to eat the apple and tell the man keep your mouth closed, right? So then let's fast forward. Then we're gonna go to the party with Samson and Delilah, right? Samson thought he had all the power, and when he cut that ponytail, right, he lost all his strength. God said, "I'm gonna show you." So back to your question about do I think he make mistakes? No, he show us. Now there's piss poor leadership on all levels, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's piss poor leadership on all levels, male, female, God fearing people, people that don't follow God. So from a social perspective, um, I don't see. I don't know if I'm connecting with everybody, but like to bring it home, right? I do not think that God make mistakes. Is there some bad people in leadership positions? Absolutely. Right?
Mm-hmm.
Is there some bad people in leadership positions? I definitely believe that. All right. And I'm not just saying this based on my belief. I've seen it. I've experienced it, right? Because you have some people you say, like, some people can relate to this. Some
Mm-hmm.
you probably have some supervisors, they'll go, and there's nothing wrong with having a strong team, but they'll probably go to that employee or that coworker that has 20, 25 years in and get that wisdom from the, hey, how you think I should handle that? And there's nothing wrong with that. Um, so I do believe that you have good leadership as far as like listening to others and that's just improving your craft. And then you have piss poor leadership, right? You have leadership where you have people that leaders that or whatever, they don't want to hear your input. You know what I'm saying? And I think that's a failure. So from a social perspective, that triggers into the household too, because man, I was just listening to something. It was talking about that. How does the men or man decisions affect the household, right? The decisions, because there's a domino effect. If you have a hard time struggling at home trying to lead your house, how could you leave a multi-million-dollar business? You know what I'm saying? Or someone's business. You know what I'm saying? So you're gonna struggle with that. So to answer your question, no, I do not think that God make mistakes, but I do think he's a funny God. I do think he's funny because he might put a whole comedian up there and tell him to lead y'all, and y'all be like, man, that's who they picked as a supervisor. So, I mean, he is comical now.
Yes, yes. So, again, that being said, so why do you believe that we collectively have gone so far from order as from the Christian experience or the Bible? Because a lot of times, again, that carnal mind, we say this, but everything that has to do with order, and when it comes to holding people accountable, as dealing with some basic biblical principles, is always
Yeah.
some fighting, like you saying something against them, but they in church every day, they reading this Bible every week, and everything
So,
that says about the basic instruction before leaving earth is there, but their carnal
so
mind say yes.
listen, here's the thing. I hear you what you're saying. I know where you're going at with it, but the speed limit sometimes say 55, right? Do they follow that?
Nope. And it's
Okay,
legal
so
consequences.
exactly. So you got bylaws and protocol at work and SOPs, right? And stuff like that. The job say don't be late for work, but a lot of us be late for work, don't we?
Mm-hmm.
So we pick and choose, going back to your favorite word, we pick and choose when we want to be accountable, when we don't want to be accountable. All right.
Mm-hmm.
Then let's go a step further too. Like from a culture perspective, our black people, a lot of us don't woke up because I feel like this, just my opinion. I feel like the white man used the Bible to keep fearing us. All right.
Mm-hmm.
So to go to that level or that perspective, I
Yeah.
just feel like a lot of African Americans have woken up and they're reading because they say don't matter what they do. Oh, love thy neighbor. All right, but thy neighbor just burnt my house up or just raped my kid. You
Uh-huh.
see what I'm saying?
And
So it's
manipulated.
hard. Exactly. So you got different perspectives. You have to look at it because the biggest thing is the accountability factor. All right.
Yeah.
A lot of us don't want to take accountability for a lot of things we do, and then we want to use that sword, that Bible, right? When it benefits us, right?
Exactly.
So we're not following it to a T, we're following part of it, right?
Mm.
Because if I'm not mistaken, correct me if I'm wrong, for example, the Bible says that a man rather sleep on the corner of his roof than sleep
Mm.
in the house with a quarrelsome wife.
Yes.
There's a reason. Not if you dig a little bit, it's a reason why he said that. You know what I'm
Do
saying?
share.
So we talking about peace and we talking about accountability and we
Mm.
talking about following revelation. So therefore, there's a lot that comes behind that. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
So, to answer your question, man, I think that is the disconnect. You know what I'm saying? Those things like that. Us as African American people, we've been hoodwinked to a
Mm-hmm.
lot of things. We've been hoodwinked to a lot of things, and the gun in the Bible is to keep us in line. All right. From a social perspective, a cultural perspective. All right. But in the household, back to what I was saying, the woman has to remember to empower that man. If she says she's a God-fearing woman, then therefore she knows her duties, her responsibilities as a wife, right? So I'm not saying follow a weak man. When I say don't follow a weak man, called man with no vision or a mission statement is not a leader to me, right?
Mm-hmm.
You can't be a leader and don't have a mission statement or leadership skills or showing that you can lead something. What am I following? You see what I'm saying? So like I'm gonna struggle with that because you want your wife to follow something, but at the same time, like you're not giving her anything to follow. You know what I'm saying? Like, at least have good negotiation skills, something. So she if I go buy a car, you know,
Mm-hmm.
he gonna talk, he gonna save me $5,000-$10,000 on the car, or whatever, or $700, whatever, just
Yeah.
throw a number
Whatever.
out there. But yeah, so that's my perspective on that, bro.
Yeah. I'm glad you said because from a perspective of look at a universal thing, regardless of it's being a Muslim, a Christian, whatever, there are
Mhm.
still like 10 universal principles. And I think again,
Correct.
we still deviating from them when it comes to order because it's just like the things that regardless if we pick and choose, there are still
Mhm.
things about because you remember the laws was made from philosophy and philosophy was made from religion. So at the end of
Correct.
the day, no matter what, all religious philosophies always want the best interests of man. So you're talking about human beings uh, coming from different walks of life, still have these basic principles.
Correct.
And again, that's why I was actually, do you believe that we collectively have gone so far from order? Then I put from the Christian experience or the Bible or the Quran or anything, because at the end of the day, you don't have to be a Christian to not to steal or kill or to lie
Correct.
or deceive, or take care of your family. These are just basic universal principles, you know. Excuse me. And I think we still have deviated from a lot of these things so far, regardless of the Bible has used to manipulate us. We still have things
Mhm.
that we have like we say, a moral compass, so to speak. You know,
Correct.
and so I think those things are extremely important. Because I just think that because what I've seen, Dr. Jones, is a whole bunch of non-believers still who don't have any interaction with anything dealing with church, the mosque, or anything. But you remember, love used to be charity. You
Right.
get it? And and and,
Right.
and I've seen a lot of people will give back and do the things that Christians, Muslims, Buddhists should be doing, but not doing it. And they go on
Mhm.
getting all this information each and every day, and still can't be consistent with giving, like the strong help in the weak, being able to
Mhm.
do things for the community, being able to protect your family, being able to provide for your family, being able to empower and give charity and help those who are in need.
Mhm.
And that's why I think that collectively, I just think we just gone so far. And I think also we struggle with just basic levels of righteousness. And I'm not talking about like church, but I'm saying right, like I was talking to my cousin the other day, and when we going out in public, excuse me, hey, how you doing?
Mhm.
Bye, I'm leaving. I'm sorry, I apologize. Basic stuff.
But then again, that's alert behavior, bro.
No,
Let me
no,
tell you
I
something.
know it is a
Listen,
learned behavior, but we ain't in the
why?
same spot our whole life.
Right. But let me tell you something. For example, talking about
Mhm.
that, right? I used to get my butt tore up, bro. If I walk past the neighbor house and didn't speak, I got a whooping for that because that neighbor is gonna call my mom and tell my mama, "Hey, Clayton ain't speak today. He just walked by here like he think he grown." But that's a learned behavior, bro. You know what I'm saying? Like, hey, that's a learned behavior that is taught. All right, I'm gonna give you an analogy. If I give you a baby, right, and you tell that baby, it's no, I'm sorry. If a baby is right there and a snake is over there, alligator, whatever, right? Let's say a
Mhm.
snake, right? If that baby sees that snake, what that baby gonna try to do, bro?
Grab it.
Grab it. So what you got to teach that baby?
Dangerous. About
Danger,
the.
fear, right?
Mhm.
It's alert behavior. So you got to teach them, oh, you're talking about doing certain things in the community. If they don't see it from grandpa or from dad or mom, how you expect for them to mirror that behavior, bro?
Well, reason. Okay, I'm glad you said that. See, the thing is, I don't look for excuses. I always look for resolutions. So I'm gonna give you an example.
Mm-hmm.
Let's say a learned behavior. So I'm going to use domestic violence for example. So your
Okay.
entire life, because we always say, well, this is a learned behavior because it's the environment where I come from. Now watch this. So I can see mom and dad fighting every day of my life, right?
Right.
And so these are the behaviors I learned from being around them. But guess what? I'm never going to be around mom and dad 24 hours. So guess what? I carry that behavior at school, right? And let's say I
Correct.
start beating up a little girl, and you ask, well, I see my mom and dad. No matter what grade you in, there are going to be professionals who are going to say you don't do this. You don't learn everything from
Correct.
your parents. So guess what? It may be
Correct.
a learned behavior, but somebody's going to address the behavior. The teacher, now watch
Correct.
it. Let's say you at the park doing the same thing. The park director or the park employee say, hey, you don't do this. Or let's say
Mm,
you curse and you see it every day. Some adult and some responsible person is going to tell you. So we always say, well, this is my environment that I learn. You ain't with your mom and dad 24 hours, 7 days a week. You are operating in a
correct.
world that has moral standards and values and going to address what you have learned. And so therefore, it's like being responsible for what you know. If you didn't know, you'll know when you get outside that household.
Right.
So, again, it may be a learned behavior, but we can't say we don't know because somebody's always going to address whatever you don't know in the house. It's going to
Mm,
be addressed in public. It's just like, how
I
it is,
agree.
so a lot of things are learned behavior, but I guess what? It's just like breaking generational curses, just like patterns
Correct.
and repetitions. It's just like breaking an insanity cycle. Your parents could have failed you completely, but that don't mean you can't break those patterns. That don't mean you can't be successful. That don't mean the very thing that you experience that you don't like, so you seek out change because there's
Right.
other resources out there. When you look at people, they probably never seen a professional athlete in real life, but they watch television. They say, "I want to do that,"
Hmm.
and so what they learned in their household has nothing to do with their aspirations. And so sometimes you got to sit there and say, you know what? I learned this, but I have to unlearn. Prime example, I remember getting spankings all the time.
Hmm.
And as I became a nurturing parent facilitator, I realized that that stuff was counterproductive.
Hmm.
It was counterproductive. And there was no evidence of saying that beating made a significant difference as a result of all the incarcerated kids who, when you look at them, they got beatings and everything else. It didn't deviate any behaviors, you know?
Now, now, let me ask you a question to that.
What's up?
All right. We talking about revelation. The Bible says a man that doesn't chastise his children don't love him.
Hmm.
So, like from that perspective, how do you chastise?
Okay, but see, you got to understand literal and figurative language, like discipline.
Okay.
Some people perceive chastisement or discipline as corporate punishment.
And
But
see, I totally agree with you, but everybody don't have that level of understanding. So
no, I understand it. But see, their understanding doesn't change the facts. So they may not understand it. It's just like what we learn. It's like how the stuff we learn through our educational journey versus our
yes.
personal experiences. We're like, Dad, I didn't know
But
this.
but but you absolutely right. But from like thinking about their perspective, it don't change the facts, but it changes their perspective.
Yeah,
You see what
exactly.
I'm saying?
Yeah, that's why I say. And again, this is when you look at just our profession. Some parents don't seek counseling and treatment for their children, and some do.
Correct.
So if you really serious about it, you know how sometimes people have their epiphanies during a time of crisis, and then they start realizing that let me just break this insanity cycle doing something over and expecting a different result. Because again, I believed in spanking, and then I started learning, and then I'm like, God darn. So my parenting was different from one child to the other. You know,
Right.
and
Right.
again,
Right.
I know how much. Um, and when you have these conversations, you ask them how they felt when they got beaten. They'll try to answer from an adult perspective. Oh well, I deserved. I should have did this, but I didn't ask you to be a 35-year-old answering a question. I asked you how that 7-year-old felt when they got tore up and how they felt.
Right.
You
Right.
know, and so when you start realizing, like I say, being able to chastise, and hey, I don't know if you heard it before, but how many times you didn't heard a kid say, "Man, I'd rather get a 2-week punishment for, hey, I'd rather get a beating before I get a 2-week punishment." So it shows that uh, the chastisement or those consequences can be more effective than the beating.
I totally agree. I totally agree with that. I mean, I don't think that you should just grab, go to a corporate punishment. When I say corporate punishment, like spanking and whooping the child, I think you chop down those things that kid enjoy or that like, or you see that liking to. You know what I'm saying? So I'm gonna take some of them things away from you. Exactly. And I don't believe in rewarding bad behavior. So I mean,
And lying, making
eh,
threats.
yep. And my dad used to tell me, "You pick your poison. Which one you
Ooh.
want? You pick it."
So which one you pick?
When it comes to the chastisement, I'm gonna pay attention. You see what you just put up there on that phone? I mean, on the screen. I'm gonna get that phone call. I know you love it, and I look how many hours you be on it. You see what I'm saying? What you spend on it. So if I take that away, someone I'm gonna die. I ain't gonna live. They about to go crazy because
Yes.
they don't know how to function without it, right? So we gonna tackle some of those things. You know what I'm saying? You'll figure it out.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. So listen, we're gonna continue that conversation, but what we're gonna do is go into station identification, and we'll be right back with social therapy with Dr. Brother Suave. Suave afternoon, suave afternoon, suave afternoon. This is Brother Suave, your mind-blowing, thought-provoking, and eye-opening on-air personality, life coach, psychotherapist, author, and creator. So it is so many benefits to being proactive. I remember during the recession, I would hear people saying, listen, I need a job. And they wouldn't hire people who need it. And the person, they hired a person who had a job and they applied for another job as opposed to, I don't have a job. And,
That's time to look for a job is when you already have one.
Yes. And again, Brother Frederick was saying this, I try not to get so caught up on religious philosophy and how spiritual are, but a foundation is so important because it gives you some morals and values. No matter if you're Muslim, a Catholic, or a Jehovah's Witness, or a Christian, or a Baptist, or whatever, you have to have respect. You can't do that. You can't do that stuff. And so we teach them emotional intelligence, teach them how to think about things before they react. Can't be impulsive. These are some of the learned behaviors as you listen. And just remember, great minds reach great places. I love you. I mean it. Bye-bye. And we're back with social therapy with Dr. Brother Suave and a very special guest, Dr. Jones. There you go. I don't know what happened, but anyway, listen, as we were talking about, oh, there you go, Dr. Jones. Yeah. So again, when it comes to that corporate punishment, man, it's one thing, but then I realized these are what you said from the beginning, learned behaviors, and the master taught us those things. Teaching us how to beat each other. Hey, this because how you doing, Mo? And I want to also give a special shout out Demetrius, some brother I went to college with, man, and that's my cousin Mo. She just came on. But anyway, learn behaviors. The brutality towards each other. So when you're sitting there learning those behaviors, you think about when a parent gets so upset and the brutality they unleash onto their children. They're not creative a way to create some type of punishment moderation. That's why at one point when the law was doing, they was hitting them on the butt, and then they give them that. That's why they were saying, law enforcement, hey, you can't do this, but you could do this. And because some parents would just, how it's funny how we will brag about these are social things that we think in our community. Oh, brag! Oh, my mom beat me with a stitching cord. Oh, they did this. Oh, she didn't do that. And we always like to up the next level of corporate punishment. But these are learned behaviors that goes back to generation because it just wasn't necessary, but it was something to break our spirit and our will. I noticed that you had something to say.
Yeah, I just want to say that you said something about like you referenced about getting upset. That's rule number one. You can't spank a child or discipline a child out of anger. Right? We can't do that. That's almost like me trying to accomplish a task, and I have anxiety or I'm upset and mad. Instead of controlling my breathing and understanding, slowing my thoughts down. Right? Uh, I can't do it. So now you're allowing your frustration to take over, and you whooping that kid for all what his daddy didn't do and what he didn't do for the last 2 or 3 months. That's no way, to hit him, because now what you're doing is creating trauma now.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
that's my
I'm
take
glad you say
on
that.
that.
But
You
the
said
sad
that.
thing is, it is traumatic. And then when you
Yeah.
blame, and that's also why I say, as a nurturing parent and facilitator, you realize, and they say, well, you shouldn't have resentment, you shouldn't have this. But again, it's people sit there, and I always say, motion block your ability to be sensible, rational, and logical. So we always know what you shouldn't do, but again, we do it anyway. We do it. We do it anyway, regardless of what we know, how dangerous it is, how ineffective it is, and how you can actually. That's why these parents got charged with manslaughter because they
Mhm.
have gone too far, you know. And this is why family services will get involved, you know. And this is why their children taking. It's like, for example, I'm just gonna give you some stories. As a therapist, and I did a lot of the nurturing parenting, right? But also parenting, and you know how that is. You do the test scores from the first, second, and third, or whatever, and you see how to, because you can't. No answer is wrong. You just want to see where you're going to start at. Next thing you
Mhm.
know, they can give all the right answers when you finally test them at the end, and it can be significant improvement from the initial test. However, they wrote the right things. They got all the right answers, but that was the academic part. But you see throughout the therapeutic process, they showed no empathy, no remorse, and what they did. So as a professional, you had to make a decision. Yes, they passed this test. They did very well. However, just hearing them about all those intangibles, you have to make a decision. Should they get the child back and have the TPR? And those are rough and tough decisions to make. But we're talking about these parents that were so abusive towards their children, but they can say all the right things.
Mhm.
And you have to be mindful of that. And they actually believe in their heart that what they're doing is okay. And it's the prime example. People always saying, well, it happened to me and I turned out all right. A lot of times they don't turn out all right, you know.
I hear that so much. Yeah, you probably wasn't or that person that said that probably wasn't a statistic, all right? But at the same time, that don't work for everybody. Maybe you didn't turn out the same way. Um, we was part of that generation where we had pages, we didn't have cell phones and all that type of stuff, right? So,
Uh-huh.
I guess I'm telling our age a little bit, but I'm just saying, for each his own.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of times, that has a lot to do with the individual. Besides the breakthrough that goes on at home, and you say, "Hey, I want to be a man and break that cycle." I do believe all men have that strength.
Mm-hmm.
Going back to that question that you asked about God making mistakes,
Mm-hmm.
I disagree with that.
No, it was
Simply,
the question that do you think? Yeah.
yeah.
Oh.
I'm just saying, I'm going back to that.
Oh.
Just giving my take on it, my perspective. I don't think so, because a man
Mm-hmm.
has strength to break that cycle. For example, like I
Free
was a man.
will.
Yeah, I was a man that went, vulnerability moment. I was a man that went through depression. I was a man because of the divorce, right? And so statistics says that I'm supposed to go to alcohol and drugs, right? But I didn't. I dug into something else, into my career, right? So, like statistically, most black men prefer or revert to alcohol, drugs, something like that. But I didn't do that. You know what I'm saying? And I thank God for it. And I thank God for a positive backbone, having a strong woman that helped me get out of that slump. You know what I'm saying? So, but at the same time, it was a mindset that I had for myself. I said, I can't allow myself to get, you know, to this level or just fall off. We call it,
Mhm.
yeah, I can't fall off, man. You know what I'm saying? God got something better for me. You know what I'm saying? So I tended to do something else and focus on myself and start loving myself more. I started being selfish a little more. You know what I'm saying?
Hey,
Because I wanted to get to a goal. I wanted to accomplish something. You know what I'm
yeah,
saying? So I do feel like, now you ain't finna cut my ponytail off. You know what I'm saying? So you ain't finna Delilah me. You see
yeah.
what I'm saying? So I'm finna get my goal. I'm finna get where I need to get at.
Hmm. Yeah, I'm glad you said that because again, those statistics, those numbers don't lie, and that's one of my primary reasons of being an advocate for black men. And I always say, if we won't, who will? Because those statistics are a number. And so again, people don't understand the depression, the sadness, the struggles, a system against you, and how we have to navigate through all that stuff. And at the end of the day,
Right.
that's why I know factually that a lot of black men don't have fathers in their life. They don't have all the resources. They go through challenges of everything taken away from them, child support. They lose their houses, and it's a system against them. And if they dare get incarcerated, the system is totally disregarding their paying their debt to society. You know.
But you know what, bro? It's so
What's
funny
up?
you said that. Here's the thing, all right? A lot of times, the first thing is that black men don't want to talk. We don't want to tell nobody that we hurting or we going through something, right?
Mm-hmm.
So this is that ego and that pride thing, right? I think all black men are born with it, right? Or all men are born with this thing called pride.
Mm-hmm.
So besides that, right? When a female get a divorce or they separate from the joke, what they do? They go have a party. They probably gonna get on a flight with their friends and go hang out and woosah about it, right? You know what us 9 times out of 10 most men do? We're either gonna, like I said, we're gonna revert to drugs or alcohol, right? This is statistics. Now I ain't making this up, bro.
No,
All
no, I agree, but I
right.
also understand that that blurred line and take into consideration a great percent of us didn't know how to be men, but we use the term loosely.
Agreed.
Because if you look
Right,
at men like we talk, this is
right,
stuff that if you look at your friends who learn
right,
how to navigate and be men, they talk about stuff. We talk about
right.
our bodies changing. We talk about the sexual dysfunctions. We talk about these things,
All
and we
right.
don't get
So
credit for it.
let me tell you something. All right,
Hmm.
from a clinical perspective, right? A lot of times men can't talk about it because they don't know how to regulate your emotions,
But
right?
that's what I'm saying. Because look,
So how could you talk about something when you don't know how to articulate and say, hey, you know what? From point A to point B, it's going to take me this amount of time. And, I might have to get gas in my car, put some gas in my car. All right. But now on the other flip side, Suave and Jones probably can say, hey, you know what? I'm going to put gas in my car for the week. I won't have to worry about that situation. Right. A lot of men don't know how to articulate themselves and explain themselves to someone and say they hurt. So therefore, you don't know how to regulate your emotions.
and see, that's my point right there. The same argument. I mean, the same me confrontation about addressing those
Mm-hmm.
things. These are the things
Right.
I say. These are not dudes. Like, for example, you as a father,
Mm-hmm.
don't you have those conversations with any of your children?
Absolutely.
Exactly. And that's my point. So we keep saying all these men don't know how to do things. When men have men in their life, they learn how to do it. Because, I tell my there you go, I tell all my kids I love them. I tell them about
Mhm.
emotional intelligence. I tell them how to do certain things. So when they have the resources, that's what I'm saying. They have the resources, they know how to do these things. When they don't, we sit there and say, oh, a lot of these men don't do because they never had those resources, such as a father in their life, to teach them how to do certain things. And again, how are we gonna learn how to be men through osmosis? Because I
Right.
guarantee you,
Hey, let Swab, how many homeboys guys that we cool with that we know that had the resources but didn't utilize them, right? One of the men that I probably learned the most wisdom from, we thought he was like this guy, Mr. McCrary, throwing his name out there. He can give you all kind of information, right? But I had a homeboy, right? Best friend, let me say that. He stayed in and out of jail all day long with the resource, and his brother worked at the sheriff's office. All right. So you putting them, you first of all, your decisions that you're making, besides you having a resource, you putting a lot of people in compromised situations. But
yeah.
we can talk all day. We got homeboys or friends or men that we know that has the resources, but don't utilize the resources.
But we all know those are exceptions. Those are smaller percent
Is that
in the
what we're
grand
gonna
scheme
call
of things, huh?
I say, is that what we're gonna call it?
We have
The
to.
exception?
Well, you
Okay.
talking so you talking about a lot of these cats who have the resources don't take advantage of compared to the ones who don't have the resources. The ones
And
who
and,
don't.
and I'm yeah, I am, because we're not just talking about structure now. I ain't just talking about this. I'm talking about from a financial literacy aspect, all right,
Mm-hmm.
from a social economic aspect, all right. So there's a lot of things that you have resources to, but you don't utilize. So you
Yeah.
can't pick and choose. Again, what we talking about accountability. You can't pick and choose what you want to have resources or have access to, all right.
Yeah.
If you're gonna round yourself, right, better yourself, right, better yourself with everything. You know what I'm saying? I,
Everything.
I don't want to
Holistic.
sit to a table and you over talk. I don't know what you're talking about. You see what I'm saying? So I'm gonna reach out to someone that's considered an expert or professional in that field.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. And that's what I was saying. That's why I go out and try to advocate, because I know guys are not gonna a lot of guys not gonna learn how to not gonna articulate, they're not gonna say how they feel, they're not gonna say. So when you empower them, tell them like it's okay. Remember I was saying on last show, we could sit there and say I love you without giving a disclaimer saying no homo.
Right, right,
And again, because they were like, oh man, and then I say, no, bro, it's okay. You know what I'm
right,
saying? And so
right.
this is why. That's why I say I always been a black male advocate, because I just know that many of them don't have the resource compared to our counterpart. You know, because they're going to stick
Mhm.
together, they're going to do certain things. But again, we have to take the initiative and say the world's about the strong helping the weak. You
Right.
know,
And just to piggyback off that part, a lot of times, man, we reject that love because we never received it as a young man or a little boy. So
yeah,
we don't know how to receive that. You see what I'm
yeah,
saying?
and
So
that's
you
why I'm
tell me,
empathetic to understand that.
okay, and I get that, and that's fine. You know what I'm saying? But you know, does the average brother understand it, conceptualize that? I mean,
No, I understand that, and that's why I say
do
I
do
know
do he
that they
know
don't.
you being empathetic? I mean, does he know that? You know what I'm saying?
Well, that's
Or
why
he's
you
like, hey, I
communicate.
don't know about this dude Suave. You know what I'm saying? So
But it ain't an overnight thing. That's why you continue. This is
right.
why, like, I'm gonna give an example of the 2 years I was in Charlotte.
Mm-hmm.
Um, Boys to Men mentoring program. You're talking about building these relationships, building trust, and having these
Mm-hmm.
kids. And then, like the ones like now, these are high school graduates now. And it was one that I saw on Facebook. I saw him
Right.
on Facebook. He right there with a gun in his hand, right?
Mm-hmm.
That was his profile. And so what I
Right.
did was I called him. And the first thing I said, hey, how you doing, brother? What's going on with you, man? Everything cool? And because I built that trust, I showed him about tithes and just having this conversation with him on an ongoing basis for the past 2 years that I was there. And I said, and he said, no, not really, man. I'm unemployed. And I said, what happened? You was doing so well. He said, well, I had some life challenges. I said, okay, you'll get past it. So I said, well, just continue to believe in yourself. And I know it's gonna be some challenges, but just don't give up. And I said, but check this out. What I wanted to say to you is that I did see, because you did say you was applying for jobs and this and that. And I say, applying for jobs and doing these things are so much different than it was now. I said, so that profile picture you have with that gun, it doesn't send a good message. Okay.
Correct.
What I did was, and I said, it'd be in your best benefit to change it. I said, but I just
Hmm.
want to touch base with you, and I'll talk to you later. I didn't beat him upside the head. I wasn't over critical. And I remember looking back maybe 15 or 30 minutes, the young man had changed his profile picture. You know, so a
And,
lot.
and you know what you had there, right there? And I just thought about this when you was delivering that story. It's two things you had was the connection. You had connection and you had grace.
Mm-hmm. But those are the things that you have to do. Like when you say, "Oh, I don't know about Suave," but this is what I'm saying. Your presentation and how you can make the connection. Because remember, as a therapist, you can have all the
Absolutely.
information in the world, but if you can't build a connection with your clients by building rapport, then the information you have in your head is pointless.
It's just like having all the education. There's a lot of people have the education, but they don't know how to apply it, right?
Mm-hmm. Exactly.
You know, so cause see, another thing, just like I feel like interpersonal skills is something you learned as a kid. You know what I'm saying? So a lot of us can have all the education and all the getting, but don't know how to communicate or articulate to an individual that, like I said earlier, I feel this way. I don't like this. You should do this way. You know what I'm saying? This is what the policy says. So a lot of people don't understand that because they don't know how to communicate.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think it was something on social media about the gentleman was going up this lady because she was singing a gospel song, and his inability to tell her that it was doing this, but he demanded that she stop, and everybody else didn't have a problem with it. But how he
Right,
communicated was confrontational, and it created more problem and a disturbance on
right,
the plane than her singing gospel.
right.
Hmm. And
Yep.
I wanted to give a special highlight again as me being a black man advocate. I just want to understand that greatness doesn't come overnight, but the novice sometimes believe it does. So it's a young man named Antonio Goodman that I had met uh, while working in the jail, and I used to always, again, how I did things in the jail. I would like, you couldn't just talk to me about foolishness, and so I like, hey, because I need to make sure you know how to take correction and rehabilitation. So I want to
Mhm.
make sure that in the time that I'm there, I want to make sure that I do something to rehabilitate them and help them have a paradigm switch in terms of the way they think. So this
Right,
particular person used to always come to me, and I would give them information. And a lot of times, you know, I would study, have my books with me, studying, and um, and he would always say certain things. And I remember showing him about Black history, telling him about Kwanzaa, just telling him about different things that traditionally we didn't learn in our educational system, but also was giving him motivation and encouragement that one day he'll get out. But to make a long story short, the brother is out. He went, the first thing he did was he married the woman who had his back. You know, he was there for his children. I mean, you
absolutely.
know, again, when I was telling him getting his rights back, he'll end up getting his rights back. You know, prioritize.
Oh
Got
yeah.
a nice job and created a nonprofit organization. It's called Convicts of Diversified Empowerment, and also he has empowerment for kids with incarcerated parents. And so he's giving back food, clothes, and everything for the community. And even every time he see me, it was embarrassing because he's always like, "Oh man, that officer right there, he the real one," because he taught to us, and then I taught to other people, and he didn't just go in there and just do this, but he would go and try to empower us because you're there.
Right,
Resource for
right.
us. He taught us how to say I love you. He taught us these things because again, this is an environment where everybody want to be so guarded, but I tried to give them a safe space of how to make things be okay. I didn't even realize what time it is. Um, but again, I want to give a special shout out to Antonio Goodman, and I wanted to tell him keep up the good work. And the last but not least is a brother who was shot 16 times by a relative of mine, and now the brother's doing good, off drugs. He's a owner of a barber shop. He used to give pool parties for the community and cut celebrity hair, and he just had, as I say, a comeback of a lifetime. So, man, I give a shout out
What's
to
up?
all those who out there striving to be the best version of themselves, even though they have a lot of challenges in front of them. I give kudos. I give kudos to everyone who never give up on themselves and dare people to say you can't become a king. You know. So man,
Right.
you have last closing remarks before we close out because I didn't realize what time it is.
Man, all thing I have to say is again, I didn't say it earlier. Thank you guys for the opportunity and platform to get, to put your little bit perspective and understanding on things. I didn't tell people how to reach me. You can reach me on Facebook at CEE.Jones, Jones. Just inbox me. You have any questions, I'll reach it back out. Don't get, impatient by me not, because I usually don't, see the messages or whatever, but eventually I get to it and I'll reach back out to you. So you can reach me again at CEE.Jones on Facebook.
Okay, man. I appreciate you, bro. Let me tell you something, man. I love our dialogues, and the thing is, I say iron sharpens iron, and certain things we can learn. And again, this is what is healthy dialogue when people agree to disagree without getting attitudes or punching below the belt. And again, we have perspective, but at the end of the day, we still positive, strong black man, and we giving back to our community as we should.
Amen.
All right. Now, so just remember, this is Dr. Brother Suave. Come in every week, 8:30 Eastern Standard Time. And just remember, great minds, great places. I love you. I mean it. Bye-bye.
This program was made possible by Neighborhood Planet Broadcasting Systems, Neighborhood Planet Network, and from contributions to NPN TV from viewers like you.